Ghaziabad Development Authority v. Union of India. Air 2000 SC 2003. Introduction. The case of Ghaziabad Development Authority v. Union of India is a landmark judgment delivered by the Supreme Court of India in the year 2000. This case is important for LLB students because it deals with deficiency in service, delay by development authorities, and the liability of statutory bodies under consumer law. The Supreme Court clearly held that development authorities are not above the law and can be made liable for harassment and loss caused to consumers. Facts of the case. The Ghaziabad Development Authority, GDA, launched housing schemes and invited applications from the public. Many people deposited money with the authority for allotment of flats and houses. However, GDA failed to deliver possession of the houses within the promised time. In many cases, there was long delay, poor construction, and harassment of allottees. Aggrieved persons filed complaints before the consumer forums alleging deficiency in service. The consumer forums awarded compensation against GDA. Aggrieved by these orders, GDA challenged the jurisdiction and powers of consumer forums before the Supreme Court. Issues before the court. The main issues before the Supreme Court were whether a statutory development authority like GDA falls within the definition of service provider under the Consumer Protection Act, whether delay in handing over possession amounts to deficiency in service, and whether compensation can be awarded against such authorities for mental harassment and financial loss. Arguments by the Ghaziabad Development Authority. GDA argued that it is a statutory body performing public functions and not a commercial organization. It claimed that disputes relating to housing schemes should not fall under consumer law. GDA also contended that delay occurred due to administrative and technical reasons, and therefore it should not be held liable to pay compensation. Arguments by the Allottees Union of India. The allottees argued that they had paid money for housing services and were therefore consumers under the Consumer Protection Act. They contended that unreasonable delay, poor quality of construction, and failure to deliver possession amounted to clear deficiency in service. It was also argued that statutory status does not give immunity from liability. Judgment of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rejected the arguments of the Ghaziabad Development Authority and upheld the orders of the consumer forums. The court held that when a development authority undertakes to provide housing services for consideration, it acts as a service provider. Delay in delivery of possession and harassment caused to consumers amounts to deficiency in service. The court also held that consumer forums have the power to award compensation, including compensation for mental agony and harassment. Important principles laid down. The Supreme Court laid down that statutory authorities are not exempt from the provisions of consumer law. It clarified that compensation is not limited only to financial loss but can also be awarded for mental suffering and harassment. The court emphasized that public authorities must act responsibly and cannot escape liability by hiding behind their statutory character. Role of consumer protection law. The judgment strengthened the scope of the Consumer Protection Act by making it clear that government and statutory bodies providing services for consideration are answerable to consumers. It reinforced the idea that consumer law is a tool for social justice and protection of common people from arbitrary actions of powerful authorities. Significance of the judgment. This case is highly significant as it ensures accountability of development authorities. It protects home buyers from exploitation and delay. The judgment acts as a warning to public authorities to perform their duties efficiently and honestly. It also boosted public confidence in consumer forums as effective grievance redressal bodies. Conclusion. The judgment in Ghaziabad Development Authority v. Union of India, Air 2000 SC 2003, is a landmark decision that firmly established the accountability of statutory and development authorities under consumer law. The Supreme Court made it clear that no public authority can escape liability for deficiency in service, delay, or harassment caused to consumers merely because it performs statutory functions. By allowing compensation for both financial loss and mental agony, the court strengthened the protective purpose of the Consumer Protection Act. This case promotes transparency, responsibility, and fairness in public administration and holds great importance while studying consumer protection, public authority liability, and compensation jurisprudence.